Today we'll talk about 7 milestones you can track on your path to financial independence. I've always been someone who accomplishes more when I have a goal to pursue. When I think back on some of the prouder accomplishments in my life, they were mostly achieved through persistent focus on a goal. In college, my first marathon, projects at work, even renovations on my house were all achieved with an end in mind. I suppose it's a disposition for an analytical type like myself, and maybe that's why I enjoy finance so much. I mean, is there a subject that lends itself more easily to goal setting than money? In that spirit, I've decided to share 7 financial goals I've set for myself personally and would encourage others to do the same. The first goal is a net worth of 0. Now, hopefully this is an early life goal for most of us. Getting going in the world isn't easy, and for many that means we need a little financial assistance or otherwise a loan or some sort of debt to get started out. And the median net worth for Americans between the ages of 18 and 24 is $8,216. Honestly, I'm happy to see that this number is above 0. It wasn't for me, and that's because most commonly, many of us take on debt to fund education. Now, thankfully, I only had about $14,000 of student loan debt when I graduated college, but for many, this number can rise into the 6-figure range. Now, this describes you. I'm afraid there's little you can do about it other than putting your head down, getting to work, and slowly digging your way out of the hole. Now, if you're in your 30s or older and have significant debts, then let me encourage you all the more to get that paid off so you can begin working toward our next milestones. If you already enjoy a positive net worth, let's move on to milestone number 2, which is $1,000 in the bank. If you have a positive net worth, then this next milestone probably won't be that difficult to reach. In fact, odds are if you're not in debt and your net worth is above 0, you probably already have $1,000 in the bank. Now, $1,000 is not a ton of money, but having a cash cushion of this size is worth celebrating because it's acting as a shock absorber for the rest of your cash flow. With little cash and savings, you're able to handle unforeseen expenses without being easily knocked off the track towards your other goals. It's also an important psychological tool that will teach you to value liquidity and the security that it can provide. Now, ultimately, this should result in a healthy balance of liquidity versus investment as your net worth and income increases over time. Having some cash available, like $1,000 in this case, will help you as you begin investing because it'll allow you to learn to balance between the amount you invest and the amount you keep liquid in cash available for emergencies or other sudden needs for cash. If you don't have any liquidity, it's very difficult to absorb challenges to your cash flow, like a job loss or emergency expense, without knocking you off track toward your other financial goals. All right, milestone number 3 is saving 15 to 25% of your income. Now, when I write posts for the website or record videos like this, I can't guarantee financial success based on any decision you make financially, but milestone number 4 is about as close as I can come to doing so. And the reason is saving this amount of your income when combined with the power of compounding interest is almost certain to lead to a portfolio that builds itself faster than you can. Saving 15 to 25% of your income also means that you're mastering the art of delayed gratification. This discipline is almost as critical as any other if you want to reach financial independence. Once upon a time when I was trying to contextualize how I got to that 15 to 25% number, I calculated how much you should have to build a portfolio that would replace 80% of your pre-retirement income based on the number of years you have left until retirement. We actually have a video about that, which I'll link above, and also the post, which I'll link in the description below. Well, at an 8% annual return, a 15% savings rate will allow you to retire in 31 years, 20% will allow you to retire in 27 years, and 25% will allow you to retire in 25 years. As you can see from the table, it's only a matter of time, but you have to get the clock started before you can reach your goal. Milestone number 4 is saving your first $100,000 for retirement. Now, I've heard it said many times that the first $100,000 you save for retirement is the hardest. And just taking a look back at the trajectory of my own retirement savings, I guess this is technically correct. It did take longer for the assets in my retirement account to reach $100,000 than any subsequent $100,000 since. My wife and I started investing and saving 15% of our income in 2007. We reached $100,000 in retirement assets sometime in 2010. Now, that's 2 of us combined. Obviously, you're single, it'll take longer. I'm a little hesitant to call that first $100,000 difficult for a couple of reasons. First, most of the growth was from contributions, not from investment returns. It's not as if we made excellent investment choices that got us to $100,000 quicker. We just made saving a priority and pushed our way to $100,000. The other thing to factor into this is the financial crisis of 2008. Sure, our paltry balances took quite a hit in 2008, but they also benefited from an incredible recovery in 2009 and 2010. Many of the contributions we made in this time did great, but not because of anything special we had done. I guess what I'm trying to say is not everyone's experience will be the same here. With inflation-adjusted median income of $76,500 and an annual return of 8%, it would take the average person a little over 7 years to reach their first $100,000 in retirement savings. And this is what people commonly see. But with that said, the second $100,000 would come only 4 years later, and the third just 3 years after that. Compounding interest is an awesome ally, but you'll have to stick it out through those tough years to get there. Now, to add insult to injury, this is usually when you're also trying to buy homes, cars, having kids, and making larger and larger life decisions. But hang in there, it's worth it. Milestone number 5 is a net worth of $1 million. The $1 million net worth club is not as exclusive as it once was. There are now just under 25 million millionaires in the United States, which is roughly 6% of the population, or 1 in every 17 households. According to Charles Schwab's 2024 Modern Wealth Survey, Americans feel like you need a net worth of $2.5 million to be considered wealthy. But do you know what you need before you can reach $2.5 million? You need a lot of things, but you certainly can't get there without getting to $1 million first. Sure, the value of $1 million can be somewhat subjective when viewed this way, but it is valuable nonetheless. And I say if you reach it, it's a milestone worth celebrating. Now, to be clear, I'm talking about a net worth of $1 million, not invested assets of $1 million, though I think both are obviously worth celebrating. Now, as you probably know, to calculate your net worth, you simply add the value of all your assets and subtract any debts that you have. If you want to ratchet up the challenge, you could set a goal to hit $1 million net worth, not including your house, which obviously makes that a bit tougher. Or you could set your sights on $1 million in invested assets. And by the way, using the same parameters we gave earlier about reaching your first, second, and third $100,000, under those conditions, you'd reach $1 million in 24 years. Milestone number 6 is when you reach that point in life where your assets make more money than you do. Now, this milestone could happen before or after the previous milestone of $1 million net worth, but to me it's more monumental, which is why I listed it at number 6. Now, I can happily report that this happened to me first in 2017 when the stock market had just an incredible year, and our assets made a little more than my salary for that entire year. It was a really cool feeling knowing that my portfolio was basically working as hard or harder than I could. Then in 2020, our portfolio made more income than my wife and I combined. Now, in a way, this was the first time I felt like I was semi-financially independent. After all, if our assets made more money than us, why would we need to work anymore? Of course, the answer is that the market doesn't always behave like it did in 2020, but nevertheless, this was a milestone worth celebrating because up to this point, there hadn't been anything that made me feel like I was flirting with true financial independence. Now, since our tax advantage retirement accounts have done so well and they're so well funded that they're kind of building themselves, we've given ourselves permission to save more in taxable brokerage accounts so we can use the money before we turn 59 and a half if we want to. That's not always the tax optimal decision, but the relative flexibility it provides has been more valuable to me and my family. Milestone number 7 is working because you want to. Now, eventually, as you keep marching through the milestones on this list, you'll reach a point when you don't have to work any longer. This day will sneak up on most of you, but many of you will have it circled months or even years in advance. Now, either way, I imagine this is quite a liberating feeling. It's also the fundamental goal of financial independence. You might even call it the finish line. Now, that said, I would caution you not to view stopping work as the goal. There are 168 hours in a week, and even the most devout sleepers among us must find something productive to do during our waking hours. In my experience, those who fail to plan for the transition away from meaningful work have plenty of time, but not much purpose or happiness in their life. To prepare for this, I would suggest that you spend at least 1 full year before your retirement considering what you will do with your time when you step away from your career. Who and what matters most to you? How can you be involved in those things? What are some of the things you wish you'd have taken several days or weeks to do while you were working, but couldn't because you were working? What's a skill, art form, or hobby you've always wanted to learn about but never had the time to devote to it? In a way, this goal comes with more responsibility than all the others. As it turns out, being financially independent isn't as simple as it seems. For more content and videos about financial independence, check out our playlist. I think we've got around 24 videos on that playlist now. It's linked down in the description below. As always, I am grateful for your time and your interest in my videos. God bless and take care.